Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Ord. We knew fireworks were coming from the Atlanta Hawks, and they came in a big way over the last week. Obviously, we talked about Zachary Arezzo-Shea getting drafted #1 overall. Then Dejounte Murray, the blockbuster trade. He gets sent to the New Orleans Pelicans, 2 first-round picks, Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance Jr. That is kind of the meat of the trade package that was picked. What are your thoughts on the return that the Hawks got for him?
I mean, I don't know how you sit here as a Hawks fan and you're just mad about the situation. What you should be mad about is that they made the Dejounte Murray trade in the first place. That's what you're really mad about. It's not the fact that Landry Fields got 80% back of what the Hawks originally gave the Spurs, which is effectively what the deal is. And if you're a Hawks fan, I don't know how you're sitting here mad about it. You don't have to be happy about it by any means because it was just a crappy situation to be in, but it wasn't a bad deal by any means. And when you break it down piece by piece, Larry Nance on an expiring deal, he can give you bench minutes, and I think the pick and roll future or the pick and roll partnership with Trae Young is going to look good. Dyson Daniels, elite point of attack defender, exactly what Trae Young kind of needs as a compliment. He's terrible shooting, but when you're with Trae Young, the catch and shoot opportunities are going to be there. So he's going to have plenty of opportunities to improve that shooting. And the Hawks clearly see, with one of the greatest shooters of all time and Kyle Korver in the front office, Quinn Snyder's offense is built around 3-point shooting. They obviously see something in Dyson Daniels that they could get something out of him. But obviously, the great stuff is the 2 first-round picks and the 2025 first-round pick from the Lakers. I'm actually going to write something on it that, all these assumptions that the Lakers are going to be good, or not even good, but a playoff team is crazy. The West is stacked. Anthony Davis has never stayed healthy in his life. LeBron James is still getting older, and yes, he is the exception in terms of being 40-something years old and being able to remain healthy. But that Lakers pick is by no means a lock to not be a lottery selection. Like, there's a real possibility that is going to be a very valuable first round pick. And when you're talking about an absolutely loaded 2025 draft class, that is a great deal in my eyes. And the 2027 first round pick, there's no telling what that team's going to look like in 2027. So if you're a Hawks fan and you're complaining, I think that derives from you just being upset about the Dejounte Murray trade in the first place, which if you want to be upset with somebody, you shouldn't be upset with Landry Fields. Hell, you shouldn't even be upset with Travis Slink. We know that trade was pushed through by ownership, a la Nick Ressler. That's who you should be angry with. I think that Landry Fields thus far has done a fine job. And if you want to look at it from an optimistic point of view, I think Landry Fields has done a good job.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think. I mean, they essentially got back everything that they traded away. I know they got a 2026 pick swap, but when you talk about getting Dyson Daniels, he's probably just as valuable, if not more valuable, than a pick swap in 2026. So I thought they pretty much got everything back that they possibly could. I've said it all along. It was a sunk cost with Dejounte Murray or Trae Young, whichever one you traded. You had to rip the Band-Aid off, and they went the route of Trae Young, which I don't think we're necessarily surprised about. We made a case for it to be Dejounte Murray over Trae Young, but I think everyone kind of thought most likely it was going to be Trae Young. So they got the best deal they possibly could. They got Dyson Daniels, and they look like they're starting to build the team around Trae Young the right way. Then again, is it too little too late? I think that's kind of going to be what we talk about a lot over this next calendar year, assuming they keep Trae Young, which I think is a fair assumption. But is it too little too late? Because, Trae Young has kind of opened up the possibility of him wanting to leave Atlanta if this team doesn't start winning. I don't know, as currently constructed, how you could make the argument that the Hawks are going to be a very, very good basketball team next year. But will it be enough to go in the right direction enough to convince Trae Young to hang around? I mean, that's really what you got over this next year. But I thought as far as the trade package, it was pretty good. Another interesting aspect of it is, when you talk, I think you might have mentioned in an article, I don't know, but it was definitely something that I originally thought of when I saw that the first round pick was from the Lakers. It's like, any deals you think that the Hawks are going to make with the Lakers, you can go ahead and throw them out the window. Like, they ain't trading Trae Young to help them and worsen their own draft picks. So that's definitely not going to happen. So it certainly seems. And then you saw those Spurs signed Chris Paul. So it seems like they kind of have their point guard. So it definitely seems like they're going to try to build this thing around Trae Young. But I think you're right. That Lakers draft pick is intriguing. Like you could make the argument that there's a very real possibility, especially in a loaded Western Conference, that their draft pick is actually better than the Hawks' own draft pick next year. I mean, that's a real conversation because I think the Hawks could easily, if they make a couple of moves, be a 7 seed or an 8 seed in the East. While meanwhile, the Lakers may have a way better team, but if Anthony Davis gets hurt, maybe they find themselves out of the play-in. And look what happened the last time the Hawks had a pick in the lottery. They won the lottery. So who the hell knows, right? So, I mean, I think that pick has the potential to be very valuable. And I think we can all sit here and say, if you didn't already hate the Los Angeles Lakers, you can be the biggest haters of the Los Angeles Lakers. And, they also have a potential first-round pick from the Kings next year. So there's some future building blocks, not to mention Reza Shea as well. Like you got the number 1 overall pick. You hope he can develop. And Dyson Daniels, he's 22 years old, 2022 first round pick, top 10, a great defensive player if he can figure out things offensively. So it looks like they're trending in the right direction. So yeah, I think everything has to be positive. You can look negatively about the time Dejounte Murray, but like I said, it was a sunk cost. Like there was nothing we could do about it. Like it was a bad decision. It was a bad fit. And eventually you had to cut ties. We're probably well past time for it to cut ties. I think we could have recognized this 3 or 4 months ago at the trade deadline, but I don't blame them for waiting this long. And I thought they got a pretty decent deal out of it. And I think everyone comes out winners. I think New Orleans should be happy with what they got. I think they needed a guy like Dejounte Murray. I think we all think Dejounte's good. It just wasn't working in Atlanta, and we got the best deal we possibly could. And I mean, pretty much got what we got back. So at the end of the day, we wasted 2 years, but at least we're not in the worst shape ever.
Yeah, I mean, at worst, I think, we got 80% back of what we gave to the Spurs originally for Dejounte Murray. And I think that's even more than I would have guessed, at the beginning of the offseason.
That contract's nice, though, dude. Like that, we talked about a lot. That Dejounte Murray.
The Pelicans come out of this winners. There's no doubt about that. But the Hawks don't come out of this losers by any means. The Pelicans didn't have to give up one of their own first-round picks. Dyson Daniels wasn't ever fitting over there. And Dejounte Murray gives them something they haven't had since Zion Williamson was drafted. So both of this is a run-of-the-mill win-win situation. But it's gonna be painted like the Hawks got fleeced because of the original Dejounte Murray trade. You have to look at both trades in a vacuum, compartmentalize the two deals because one, they were done by two different GMs, and like you can't hold Landry Fields accountable for Travis Schlenk. Again, it wasn't even Travis Schlenk in my eyes. It was ownership, aka Nick Ressler, that really pushed that original Dejounte Murray trade across the finish line. I think Landry Fields deserves the benefit of the doubt going forward. I think the most impressive thing to me is finally we're not chasing names. We're not chasing stars. We're not chasing, headlines. We're making moves that are building a foundation in the future for Trae Young to be most successful. We were building a team in ways that like kids build a 2K team, aka a 27-year-old nobody who should have no business in the Atlanta Hawks front office, treating this billion-dollar franchise like it was a 2K my franchise. It was absolutely pathetic. It was like, ooh, Dejounte Murray, that sounds fun. And all this stuff, what it now feels like is there's an adult in the room. Somebody is actually putting a vision to paper where they're thinking not just this year, not just next year, but the years down the road. We're building a foundation. And I see a lot of people saying, we need more. We need a ball handler. We need shooters. Guys, I don't know what to tell you. This is not going to be a very good team next year. And it was never probably going to be a very good team. There was like a 1% chance that the Hawks came out of this as like true contenders in the East. And that, vision is just completely gone. I think that you need to swallow it that at best, we're going to be a play-in team or maybe a 6 seed at best this year. And that's if everybody hits, I'm talking DeAndre Hunter replicates last season. Jalen Johnson takes a next step. Zachary Reza-Shea is better than a lot of people anticipate. Onyeka Okongwu takes that next step. I'm talking everything goes right and the Hawks are like a 6 seed. That's if everything goes right. We are not playing for 2024/2025. We are clearly building for 2025 and 2026. Now the issue comes with what you pointed out. Is that going to be enough to convince Trae Young to sign another max contract extension? I'd like to think, yes, it will be, to kind of be like, Trae, we're doing it the right way. It might just be a little bit slower than you anticipated. Trae Young's 25 years old, and listen, he's the ultimate competitor. He wants to win championships. He doesn't want to be competing for lottery picks. He wants to be competing for playoff spots, and I get all that, and I respect it. And if that's his prerogative, then so be it. I can honestly respect it. But we're finally doing this the right way. We're not just chasing all-stars or chasing all-NBA guys. We're chasing guys that can affect winning conditions around Trae Young. We have to surround Trae Young with guys who can maximize his skill set, and it looks like we're at least laying the foundation for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the one thing that the Hawks are going to have, they're going to be able to offer him some insane amount of money with the new TV deal coming in. I mean, they'll probably be able to offer him like 80, 90, $100 million a year. He might actually get like, I don't know what the max contract offer is going to look like, but it'll probably be looking something like when he becomes a free agent, like $500 million. And
right now, the end of the new max contracts are being signed right now. They're like upwards of $60 million per year. So you're looking at that at the beginning.
But they're talking about like 80, 90 million, maybe even 100 million, which is absurd. I mean, thinking about paying, it almost looks like, I feel like I shouldn't be offering any basketball player $500 million, let alone Trae Young, who, as much as we love Trae Young, what is Trae Young? Maybe a top 20 player, top 15 player. And we're talking about, but that's a position that the Hawks, when you have trouble getting stars in the building, you got to keep the ones that you have. So there is definitely going to be some desperation, especially to try to keep him. I don't blame them for being desperate. And honestly, I don't really see another path. Like what's the other options? Like it's going to be, unless some of these other guys really turn out to be like star level players. Jalen Johnson just turns into an absolute animal, which could happen, and you just want to build around him. That's potential. But I like the idea of Trae and Jalen. I agree with you. This season, it didn't matter what we did this offseason. Wasn't going to matter. They're not going to win. They're not going to compete. Hopefully they compete for a playoff spot. Hopefully Dyson Daniels, like you said, takes another step in his development. Zachary Rizachet shows that he can be a starting level player early on in his career, and things like that happen. And Jalen Johnson, obviously, we're like a lot of what the future of the Hawks hinges on Jalen Johnson really becoming a superstar.
Internal development period.
Yeah.
And that's how you build, that's how you build a sustainable winner. Let's not act like you could just, it's very rare that you could just go out and buy a championship, like a rental championship.
Well, dude, go look at the Bucks. Go look at the Bucks traded Drew Holiday for Damian Lillard, and everyone's like, oh my God, highway robbery. And it's like, that's not how basketball works, bro. This isn't 2K. Like, as you just said, like Drew Holiday is a winning basketball player. Like he was like a key to why the Bucks were so successful. They went and chased the star name, the sexy name, and all of a sudden the Bucks, we're not even talking about them anymore. And the Celtics go on and win the championship. I want to talk about a little bit more of some of just the NBA moves after the break. Because there were just some crazy, crazy deals already being handed out in free agency.